Well, hello and welcome to Lecture 1 of 7501 BPS Airline Management. This is a synopsis lecture of the introduction and the topic overview. The lecture that's presented in the classroom and made available to online students through the system is a complete coverage of this topic. That's what should be used for study purposes. As I show you here with regards to the lecture, this synopsis is really just a slice of the cake. It's not the whole cake. So it's a condensed version. It's just an overview. It gives you a flavour rather than the full ingredients of the lecture content. And obviously for learning and assessment purposes, what you need to do is use the full presentation. What are we going to cover here today? We're going to cover first the course profile. It's really important that you read the course profile and understand its content. If you like, it's a contract between you, the student, and myself as the lecturer. I'll then give a topic overview, and it'll be a brief run through of the topic, airline management, and how it stands in the current world. And all of my lectures at the end have some learning points. So again, I'll list those for you. Firstly, the course aim. What's the course aim? Straight out of the course profile, to provide an insight into all management areas of the aviation business so that future managers have a broad perspective in a growing, competitive and increasingly globalised industry. So the course aim is most important. And that's the target that we need to meet. So who are the personalities? First we have Dr. Guy Lohmann. He's the postgraduate program convener at Griffith Aviation. From his perspective, he's interested in all things with regards to your learning activities through the whole program. Student contact is shown there and some contact details for you. Okay, who am I? I'm David McBride, I'm the lecturer, so I'm concerned about your progress, your learning journey through this course. My early career was in the Air Force, and then I moved into the public sector where I've worked as a senior aviation policy advisor, business development manager, corporate planner and airline industry regulator. One of the more interesting jobs I had was managing the capacity building assistance to Indonesia, to the aviation safety regulator for a period of 3 years. I've chaired a number of national aviation bodies and I've also been a member of various international initiatives, including some international civil aviation organisation panels. I have also held the position of the one that Dr. Guy Lohmann currently holds before reverting to being a sessional lecturer. And I also work now as a consultant to the industry in Australia and overseas. Straight from the course profile again, what are the learning objectives of this course? Aviation industry is a high-cost undertaking relying on sophisticated technology in all areas of its business activities. So there's a need for you as a future aviation sector manager to understand this complex environment and the many management challenges and pitfalls that are present. So this course is designed to provide an insight into all management areas of the aviation business. In fact, I think of it, if you like, as an aviation-orientated MBA course. So I cover a lot of material in this course just at the highest level, and I leave it up to you to delve down into the detail should you need it currently or at some stage in the future. The learning activities as we go through the 13 lectures are shown here. We'll cover a broad range of topics. If one of these weeks happens to be a public holiday, I will then present the lecture online to you. So public holiday, not a problem. There'll still be a lecture available, but it will be online and not in person. The learning objectives directly from the course profile is that after successfully completing this course, you should be able to demonstrate knowledge on the management principles and concepts that apply to the airline industry, apply these principles and concepts to the contemporary industry, analyse the performance of specific operators, and critically determine those areas that lead to commercial success and failure. The learning approach here, educators talk about this in theoretical form, but what we're trying to do here is to build your knowledge, understanding and apply it. But the most important thing at the postgraduate level is the analysis, synthesis and evaluation. So what I'm after from you is not a repetition of theory. I'm not after that at all. What I'm after from you is your thoughts. What I want you to do is take the theory into your head that we've talked about on the course, and also your studies and research, and I want you to come up with your views on those subjects. So it's about that analysis, synthesis and evaluation on that hierarchy that you can see to the bottom right. I've put up my friend Pete the polka dancing pilot, and the reason why I put Pete up is to remind you and myself that this is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be having fun learning about a dynamic industry that's very exciting. Things are happening to it every day, and one of the things that we need to do is to understand that we don't live in a static world. It's not like learning about physics. This course is about learning about a living, breathing discipline, and you need to continue to understand by continually building your knowledge on the industry. Some of the learning resources, again, academic calendar is most important. Some of the other resources are shown there that we'll go through as the course progresses. But most important are your research efforts. And normally I'll post the lecture material on Learning at Griffith within 3 days of the lecture. You're encouraged to become an avid follower of the aviation industry through the media and internet. There'll be a weekly discussion about what you've learnt that week. I encourage you to select one airline or an airline group, but I ask that you don't choose Singapore Airlines. Rather than an airline, you can choose another aviation organisation. If you work for an air traffic organisation, if you work for a maintenance, repair and overhaul organisation, again, management principles are very much the same for all of those areas of the aviation industry. And I'm more than happy for you to take a broader view of the learning journey. Most important, by selecting one airline and starting to learn about it, it'll help you to complete the major assignment. What I would recommend is you start collecting some material now. As you come across material, start collecting it. That'll make it a lot easier. And each week we'll have a discussion on what you've found. Some of the assessment items, there'll be too many papers, they're 1,000 words long. The topics will be advised, and they're to be placed on Learning at Griffith, which is the website that we use, and they'll be placed against the discussion board tab. That's worth 30% of the course, too many papers. There's criteria and marking, obviously, that apply to it, and one of the major aspects of it is that the assignments or the topics will be using set to include references to Bethune, and we'll talk about who Bethune is in a moment. And to mark it, I'll use an abbreviated form of the marking matrix. The major assignment is worth 30%. It's a written assignment. It's 3,000 words long. Again, I will advise the date to you on Learning at Griffith and in the first formal lecture. It'll be about the contemporary aviation industry and you being a manager in it. And we'll be getting you to submit it via Turnitin, which is a plagiarism checking and submission tool. So again, it's something for the future that you need to start thinking about, this 3,000 word assignment. Again, there is a marking matrix for that marking assignment. I'll put it up on Learning at Griffith, but it is also in the course profile, and you need to understand not only what the Griffith Aviation Writing Style Manual says, but you also need to understand that there is a marking matrix made available to you. And there's elements in that marking matrix which attract points. So for example, if you don't include a name in the introduction, you lose marks. If you don't include an executive summary, you lose marks. So make sure that you leave yourself plenty of time and use quality references. And the kicker, the bit that's at the end of the semester, is the end of semester exam, and it's worth 40%. It's a 2-hour exam. It's a closed book. It's multi-choice, so from that perspective there will be a number of multi-choice question set, and they'll be against the learning points set on the course. Assignment submissions. What I'm saying to you is that you should consider that you're working for me. Like in a work environment, I'm your supervisor, I've set you some work to do, I've given you some dates to achieve it by. If you're having any problems along that pathway, please pay me the courtesy of coming to me and stating what your problems are, and you and I then will work on assisting you or work on a later deadline for you. But seriously, if you have genuine hardship, please let me know. Let's have a quick look at the set text. The first one is from Worst to First. This is by Gordon Bethune, and it's about the recovery of Continental Airlines from bankruptcy almost the third time back to profitability. It's now a part of another airline, but the book provides an excellent explanation of managing an organisation that is suffering commercially. The other one is Robbins' Fundamentals of Management, Concepts and Application, 8th edition. Now there's all sorts of different versions of Robbins' books around. The point I'd like to make is if you come across a different one, it is as equally applicable as the one I've stated here. Some other texts that may be useful: Air Transportation, Vensveen. Again, another course uses that as a reference, and it's a good secondary reference. And Contemporary Management by Diane Waddell. The Asia Pacific one, again, is a good reference. The 3rd edition is just on the street. What do they look like? This is from Worst to First. Its cover, Bethune. This is Robbins and some of the various forms that his books appear in, depending on whether it's the US, the international, or sometimes the Australian version. This is Vensveen, and this is Waddell. And again, the 3rd edition has just hit the streets, and it looks like that cover on the front. Well, bottom right of your screen. Okay, let's move on now from the course profile and what's in that and what the course will be, and let's start having a quick look at the overview of airline management. So, is airline management worthy of study? Well, it is. It's a dynamic and growing industry that provides considerable social and economic benefits to the people of the world. It's one of the most important national industries, especially in large countries with remote regions. Take Australia, for instance. It's really important. Take Indonesia, again important. Have a look at Russia, Canada. It contributes to sustainable development, it facilitates growth, and globally, over 3 million passengers are carried each year, with a long-term growth forecast for the industry of being between 4.7 and 5.1% year on year. And that's the sort of increase that I wished I could get on my money that I put in the bank. 4.7 to 5.1% year on year is just phenomenal growth. And more than 40% of the tourists travel by air, and over 40% by value of the goods are carried by air each year. In 2019, the Asia Pacific region became the largest regional air transport market in the world. And this region, the region that Australia is a part of, continues to grow, with the growth rate being above 5% and more than 1 billion passengers per annum. And forecasts indicate this number growing in the region over the next 10 years. So the Asia Pacific region is going to increase dramatically. The rest of the world is going to increase slowly. A lot of the growth in regions coming from China, Japan and Southeast Asia. And there's also healthy growth in a number of other developing economies. For example, Vietnam, Myanmar are two that I've been reading about recently. One of the points to remember when we look at the region and that map to the right is that Australia is at the end of the network rather than in the middle. And that has quite important implications for our growth. The region is growing quickly, but Australia, being a mature economy, is growing more slowly. So for an organisation to be successful, it has to have competitive advantage or a strong market position to ensure success. And that success relies heavily on having the appropriate strategy and implementing the appropriate plans to support it. So what's the goal of a manager? If you're a manager, it's to improve organisational performance and to ensure that all facets of the business are carried out in an efficient and effective manner in accordance with higher direction from the senior managers who are responsible for strategic planning. So the goal of a manager, improve organisational performance. So that's what your role as a manager is. It's about organisational performance. That's what your focus should be. So running a profitable business is easy. It's not all that difficult. However, when the environment goes a little bit sour, it then becomes most difficult to run a business. And you need well-developed business strategies and managers, good managers, to make it happen. Airline passenger travel has gone from a luxury commodity many years ago, started off as mail transportation initially, and now to a very competitive marketplace. So in a contemporary world, management expertise has become the difference between commercial success and failure. And this is a major theme of this course. And again, if you remember back to one of our learning objectives, it's about determining what leads to commercial success and failure. In the old days, it was pretty easy. The world was a lot smaller place than it is. If you had a small airline, you serviced a relatively small area, and there wasn't a lot of competitors, so all you had to do was plan your resources in the environment that you lived, put a bit of strategy together, and you came up with some dollars. The world has changed these days. The business environment's far more complex. In addition to the resources of capital, people, organisation and technology, all of these can be deployed very quickly or redeployed quite quickly. And the world is now a global village. So if people see opportunities, business opportunities, they'll be marching on your market. So how do we go about analysing how well your organisation is positioned? Well, there's all sorts of different indicators for that. Some of the approaches use external indicators, some combine internal factors with external factors, others look for congruence between various aspects of the business. Regardless of how you measure your success or failure, there's one constant, and it's the quality and dedication of the organisation's managers, which are important. So without good managers, most organisations will fail. And as we see here in this cartoon, the gentleman heading up the meeting is saying there's no time for thinking, we have to make a management decision. And hopefully you'll never be put in that place that you have to make a decision without taking all the factors into account. The airline industry these days, the focus is on keeping costs down, efficiency up and communications flowing. And the trend has moved towards flat, lean and hungry organisations. And so therefore they become very dollar-centric in how they apply. During the course of these lectures, I'll be often talking about the strategic level, the operational level and the tactical level. And what are these about? These are about the strategic level, the medium to long-term future of the organisation, where the organisation is going in the longer term. So that's about the board. It's about the chief executive officer. It's about the group level managers all deciding where the organisation is going. At the operational level, where most of you will work as managers, what you're there is you're implementing those decisions in the short to medium term. And at the tactical level is the doing. And if we look at a typical line drawing of an organisation, it normally follows this pattern that the CEO is at the top, the day-to-day people who are running the organisation, the short to medium term, in the middle, and at the tactical level is at the bottom. So it's quite easy to transcribe your thoughts, often from the wiring diagram of the organisation, to those levels. The strategic level, up here, where we're going in the long term, the operational level, the things that we're doing short term to medium term to implement that long-term direction. And the tactical level is doing the day-to-day things to make it happen. As I said at the start, at the end of each of my lectures, I have some learning points, and in in the main, the final exam is drawn directly from these learning points. So what I'm after is for you to look at the learning points at the end of each lecture and make sure that you're able to answer them. And let's just look at one. What is the goal of a manager? Well, that calls for a definition, doesn't it? Why do airlines need to keep costs down, efficiency up and communications flowing? And what's the difference between strategic, operational and tactical levels of management? So they're all points that are important for you to learn at this stage, and as we continue to go through the course, we'll build on them. So what I've done in this course, or in this synopsis lecture, is I've covered the course profile, the major elements of that. I've given you a topic overview, and I've presented the learning points. As a reminder, on the course you'll need to read From Worst to First by Gordon Bethune in the first 3 weeks. And as I say here on this slide, it not only provides information that you can use as a basis to provide the responses to the 2 mini-paper questions, but it also provides a comparison, especially for those of you that have minimal aviation industry experience. It provides at least a basis on which you can build. What are the student activities as a result of the lecture, the first lecture? You'll find a lot of the material, or all of the material, on learning at Griffith. I'll normally put it up, I said earlier 3 days, but here I've said 2 days of the lecture. I'll get all of the material on learning at Griffith. And if you want to do some pre-reading in the text, next week we start looking at the management space in an organisation. So that's the synopsis of lecture 1. It's been about the course introduction and a topic overview. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'd just like to underline the point again. It's not meant to be the learning guide for the lecture. It's just to give you the flavour of it. Just that slice of the cake, not the whole cake. I wish you the best in your future studies in this course. And I look forward to working with you. And if we had the music on, we'd hear Pete the polka dancing pilot right now dancing his polka, going right stage. Thank you.